Welcome back to our podcast, Grief and Life as We Know It.
So far, we talked about how grief came crashing into my life and changed everything. And to be honest, it has been kind of draining for me. It all comes back, and it's a bit exhausting. But grief doesn't just affect one person, it ripples out, touches everyone around, and that includes you, sister.
Yes, I guess you're right.
So I thought it would be only fair if this episode starts with you.
All right, what do you want to know?
You were living so far away through all of this, and I know that wasn't easy. So, how has all of this affected you? I don't think we ever really talked about this before.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. Just being far away from everyone in general was tough. But I never really thought about how loss would feel from such a distance. Honestly, just being far away was a loss in itself. Missing out on everyday things like family, Sunday dinners, to my friends
Hmm.
going out, or even just popping over to someone's house to have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine to talk about our day.
Hmm.
But I guess those are the sacrifices you make when you decide to move far away from home.
Yeah, it was really sad to see you move so far away to the other part of the world, actually. We did so much together before, you and me and the kids having sleepovers, and now it was mostly just vacations and holidays. But at the same time, I must say it was quite exciting as well to follow your journey abroad. And hey, everything for love, right? That's why you moved.
Exactly, love. I guess I couldn't settle for a farmer from a small town in Norway like my dad always joked about. Instead, I fell for this hot Canadian soccer player, and after a few years of long distance and all that, we decided to move to Canada, where he's from. And it was such a weird feeling moving away. I remember it so clearly how sad I was. Everyone who came to the airport to say goodbye, waving their Norwegian flags. That was a grief in itself, too.
Of course.
And since then, with his career in soccer, we've moved a few more times. And I must say, we're really lucky to have such resilient and brave kids. It's definitely not easy moving that much, but I think they learn something from that too, right? At least I comfort myself saying that.
Absolutely. I totally get how it's both an adventure and scary and hard at the same time. But I think, as you say, there is always something to learn, totally. And your kids are doing great.
I never expected to grieve when I moved away, but I did. It wasn't just about missing the people, it was this deep, unsettling feeling like I had lost a part of myself.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Moving far away isn't just a change of address, it's kind of a loss. Your routines, your people, the way you fit into a place, it all shifts.
Yeah. And even though I chose to leave, I still felt unanchored, like I didn't fully belong anywhere. It took some time.
I totally get that. You didn't just leave a place, you left a whole way of life. And grief isn't just about losing people, it's about losing familiarity, the everyday connections that make life feel solid.
Exactly. And I think that's why some people who move far away from home struggle. It's kind of a grief that isn't always recognized, but it's real.
It is, and I guess, like with any grief, you have to find a way to carry it while still building something new in a way.
Yeah. But going back to loss and distance, it really hit me hard, especially in 2020. COVID was one thing, but then my brother-in-law got sick and I couldn't be there for you in person. Not being able to travel, it felt so unfair in the moment.
Mm.
And then my husband's grandmother got sick with COVID and she actually passed away from it shortly after. And we couldn't go back because of the travel restrictions. This was to Canada.
Mm.
And it was very strict there, I think even stricter than Norway. And only 3 people were allowed at the funeral. So even if we could go back, who do you choose get to attend a funeral, and how awful
Mm.
is that?
Yeah, that's terrible. I remember that. Sweet, sweet Nana. You were so close, weren't you?
Yeah, she was my best friend in Canada. We always hung
Mm.
out. I will always go see her with the kids.
Yeah, it's so hard to think about. Only 3 people there to say goodbye.
Yeah, those COVID times were just surreal. And then when
Mm.
your husband passed and we couldn't be there with you, it was so hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. I had my own grief through all of this, but how did it feel for you not being able to come home?
Oh, what can I say? I felt lonely in my sorrow, maybe sad and kind of isolated from it all. Like, is this real life? Not being there for you at all, and then having to witness the funeral online. Thank goodness for FaceTime and for our other sisters setting that up.
Wow, so unreal still. What a feeling that must have been for you. I can't even imagine. And the funeral on FaceTime? Oof.
Yeah, I remember sitting in my oldest daughter's room watching it with her. I just couldn't have too many people around me. And the other kids were kind of too small at the time as well. And we were both crying because it was so sad just seeing the aisle where the coffin was with all the flowers and hearing all the speeches, especially yours. You were so strong, and it was such a beautiful speech. And
Mm, thank you.
also the music that he chose, that was so him.
Mm.
We yeah, we just wish we could have been there, and it all felt so surreal again. And then at the end of the service, when the coffin got carried away and everyone got up and followed and walked outside one by one, and the room emptied out. And that's kind of how we felt. Not empty, but the feeling of being left out, not being able to be there to say goodbye in person. And this has actually happened to me before when I couldn't attend a few funerals, and it just doesn't feel good not to get a proper goodbye, or for the reality to hit. It doesn't hit in the same way, I think. But in one way, we got to say our goodbyes because we were there, even if it was through a phone. But I guess we did it in our own way. At least the technology now allowed us to be there in some way, the best way we could in that situation.
So heartbreaking, and I'm so sorry it had to be like that. Stupid COVID.
It just shows how helpless you feel in a situation like that. And like I said, also that you get the feeling of never saying a proper goodbye. It feels less real. But maybe that's good or bad. I don't know. Maybe it would be more sad to be there in a way too.
Maybe I can't even imagine how that must have felt. It's such a strange kind of grief to be so far away watching, but not really there. And I guess it's one of those things where there's no right or wrong way to feel about it. And maybe being there would have made it even harder. I don't know. Or maybe it would have given you a stronger sense of closure. But in the end, you had no choice, and the pandemic made that decision for you. And still, I completely understand why it felt unfinished, like something was missing. I think I would have felt the exact same way. But then finally, you got your travel authorization. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we did, and we could finally fly home. And this was early September, I think. Me and my two youngest, as they were still homeschooling because of COVID, and I guess that was the one positive thing, so that they didn't have to miss any school. They could do it from Norway as well, even though
Mm.
time difference made it harder, but it was
Kind of.
still doable. I mean, they were sleeping by the screens at times, but they could still do it.
Yeah.
But then when we arrived, I could see the impact it had on you.
Yeah, I remember that. You surprised me. I didn't know you were coming, and I remember I was completely in shock.
Yes, because I wanted to surprise you. I even called your son to see if he thought that it would be a good idea, and he agreed, or we agreed that it would be something positive for you. But maybe it was just too much.
I mean, yeah, I know you love to surprise,
Yes.
but at first it really was. I was overwhelmed, just completely in shock. I didn't know how to react, really. But then, of course, once the initial shock settled, it was such a blessing to see you all. We were finally together, all of us, and it was exactly what I needed. Even if I didn't realize it at first, due to the shock. You probably should have prepared me.
Yes, of course we should have.
But how was it like for you to finally come home? What comes to mind? Because life definitely changed in so many ways that year.
Indeed. At first, it was so good to finally be there around you all, and the feeling of being present and to be able to step up and help if anyone needed me. Like, hello, now I'm here. Even though the situation was like it was, we did enjoy our time together. I got to celebrate my birthday even, and my stepfather, of course, sang the loudest birthday song with his warm and loving voice. So loud that the candles sparkled all over the table and made burn marks. Or was it from me blowing out the candles? I don't know.
I remember that so well. You finally being home, us all together, it just felt right, even in the middle of everything. And that birthday song, classic hymn, so loud and heartfelt, and of course, so completely chaotic. I swear only he could turn a simple birthday cake into a fire hazard. And the way he immediately wanted to fix the burn marks, like, no worries, I'll just sand down the entire table real quick now.
That was so him, honestly. And then a few days later, we all went to Holmen with the family. We had a few boats go out, me and the kids with my mom and stepdad, and you with your boys, and even some friends came to help. We shut down the island for the season, pulling up the last of the potatoes, taking in all the furniture, and tried to take back some normalcy in all of this.
Yeah, it was such a typical end of summer tradition. So emotional, but also so healing having you all there with me. We all were filled with sadness at the time, of course, especially out there on the island, because that was such a special place to be without my husband for all of us. And our stepdad wasn't feeling well at all that day. I remember it so clearly, him sitting there reminiscing.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. But honestly, none of us were at our best, as you can say.
Mm.
I also vividly remember him sitting there and saying how horrible this all was now that your husband was gone. How strange it felt to be out there without him because they were such good buddies. It's
Mm.
so hard to think about because then the next day he was gone too.
I still can't believe how sudden it was. That is so unreal to talk about and look back at still. One day we were all together, and the next evening we were at the hospital facing another loss. It was horrible and too much to handle. I went straight into emergency mode again. I remember feeling like a zombie or something. Couldn't sit still, just wandering around.
Yeah, it really was. I remember thinking, how is this happening again? Like, how is this even allowed to happen?
I don't know what to say even today.
Same here. Yeah, how can a loss happen so sudden after another loss, you know? But as weird as it sounds, I felt thankful that I was actually there. We got time together before, and yeah, I got to be there and I got to say goodbye in a way. He was such a
Mm.
special person to me and to all of us.
Yeah, of course. I totally understand that. Imagine being away when this happened also. That'd be
Yeah,
terrible.
yes.
So I'm so glad that you were all there at the time that you did come home, especially for our mom's sake, because I couldn't be there for her at the time and I had too much and I just couldn't deal with all of this. And to be honest, I couldn't deal with him dying at all. I remember being so mad both at him and the world at the time. No words actually covers what I felt back then. Shock on top of shock, kind of, so many emotions. And our mom, it was terrible not being able to support her more, because if my life were normal at the time, I would have been there for her also.
Totally understandable. And we all knew that at the time. And our other sister and his two sons, our amazing stepbrothers and family, all stepped up, of course. And it felt so good and comforting for me to be a part of the group to take care of each other.
I'm so grateful that our connection is so strong, all 5 of us kids. That is such a blessing. It made things easier to have all of you there for Mama, even though it's still so hard. And then you had to help dealing with everything that came after also, the funeral paperwork and so on. But most importantly, Mom's grief. Again, it's too much to take in still. I hardly remember those weeks. But yeah, it was different this time for you, though, being home. Tell me more about how all of this was for you.
Different and painful in ways I didn't expect. He was like my second dad, the most kind and helpful person, always there to help. And now he wasn't there anymore. And he used to call me probably every other day, saying like, "Hey, my girl, how are you? What are you doing?" And then here's your mom. And she would be rattled and say, "Again? He's calling again?" So I definitely feel the emptiness of him not being here anymore, because I could talk to him about everything. He was good like that. He was a good man, and we all miss him.
Yeah, he was such an amazing and important man in our lives, and I miss him so much.
Yeah.
I guess now, after hearing your story from all of this, we all know that grief isn't just a personal experience. We all probably knew this from before, but still an important reminder, I think. Grief ripples out, touches everyone affected in different ways. While I was at the center of my own loss, you, my sister, was experiencing it from a distance, dealing with the helplessness of not being able to be there. And when you finally made it home, we were thrown into yet another wave of loss. It's quite absurd.
Looking back, it's still so hard to comprehend how much we went through in such a short time. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that grief is unpredictable, I guess. That it can isolate, but that it also connects. It overwhelms, but somehow we have to keep moving forward together. Makes it
That
easier.
is, yeah, that is so true. And such an important takeaway from this, because it shows us for sure that we are so much stronger together. So, to all of you listening, I hope with all my heart that all of you grieving have your group of love surrounding you.
Okay, so over to you. And one thing I think it's worth mentioning, because communication is so important in all aspects of life, and it comes to show in the incident with the obituary. It's probably a perfect example of how not talking about something, even with good intentions, can go so wrong because your husband wasn't mentioned in it.
Oh, well, okay, so we're going there. And for anyone who doesn't know, an obituary is the notice in the paper or online after someone passes, right?
Yes, correct.
Just checking, because my very Norwegian ears have never heard that word before. But yeah, that really hurt, because to me it felt like my husband never existed. And you know how I already felt after our stepdad's passing, like my husband's death was somehow pushed aside, like, thank you, next. Of course, that wasn't the case, but that's how it felt at the time. I almost feel ashamed to say it out loud even now, but yeah. I also remember other people noticing this, coming up to me saying how sad it was to see the announcement without his name. They saw my name standing there alone, local papers. It was kind of rubbed in my face also.
That is heartbreaking to hear, even now. And of course, you didn't have the capacity at the time to even be there when it was written, and we all understood that.
Yeah, because then his name would have been there, of course.
Yeah.
But after the shock faded, I could see that everyone was just in shock. Leaving him out wasn't intentional, of course, but still that moment hurts.
Of course it did. I totally get why you felt that way. And I know for sure that no one there meant to erase him. He is and always will be a part of our family forever. But you're right. Someone should have asked you.
Absolutely. I remember being so frustrated and the rage when I saw it and heard it from people. I'm pretty sure I made a very loud phone call to some of you. I don't remember who, but yeah. You know what? As I said, this too passed, and honestly, I don't think I've thought about it in years until now. I guess I were on top of my bitterness at this point. I just lost my husband 6 weeks ago at the time, so.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's a totally normal reaction. And we all understood that. This should have been handled differently, of course. But how was it like for you, grieving when you were already grieving, if that makes sense?
I guess we all did at the time, the whole family, but honestly, I don't think I fully grieved our stepdad still. I don't know. After my husband passed and then our stepdad just weeks after, I was numb with grief for so long, and then I needed to start my healing process. So, yeah, I don't think I have an answer to this actually. And when my life kind of felt stabilized and good again, I could start the grieving process of him, our stepfather. My boyfriend got sick also, and everything shifted again. So once more, he was on pause. I don't know. Of course, I grieved him, but I think it's hard to explain this one, you know?
And I totally understand that. You only have so much emotional capacity, and I see how that's still affecting you, even in your relationship with our mom.
Yeah, I still feel like I kind of carry her grief too when we are together. It's weird, but I'm working on it. And thankfully, we are three sisters to take care of her and also our stepbrothers and their family. And thank God again that you made it home when you did, so you could be there for her also, because she needed us around her then. And as I said, I had enough on my plate with myself and my boys. They are my closest, and I just couldn't be there for her. But I must say, I'm forever grateful that Mom and I can talk about this, and she, of course, understands.
That's so important because I remember people saying things like, oh, now you and your mom can really connect over this. You can comfort each other, both being widows. And
Mm.
I get why they thought that, but it's not that simple, is it?
No, not at all. Not for me, at least. This was actually the worst thing that could happen. In that moment, I was going through the worst crisis of my life, and I needed my mom to be my normal mom. I needed my stepdad too. I needed both of them. I needed normalcy, something steady, something safe. And when that suddenly was gone, it was just too much. It unstabilized the whole family constellation, kind of. So I just had to step back for a while. But I knew Mom had you and so many others surrounding her, and thank God for that. If she had been completely alone, I would have been there more, of course. I need to say that. Because still saying this out loud as a daughter makes me feel like I sound cold and selfish.
You're not cold or selfish, totally not. You are a warm and including person for sure. And of course, you would have been there for her more if life were normal at the time. Our mom and all of us understand that. And I think for sure that a lot of people listening will relate to this as well and also understand. But do you
Mm.
think you're finally allowing yourself to grieve now?
To grieve our stepdad?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. I guess I have, but as I said, it's just a lot. To this day, I have never visited his grave. I just can't, and that's hard to admit, but I think about him every day. He's always with me in my heart, you know?
And that's okay. He isn't there at the grave. He is in your heart, as you say. All of our
Yeah.
hearts. And also, as we talked about before, grief isn't something you just move past. It stays with you and you learn how to carry it differently over time.
Yeah, that's so true. But when I think about this now, reflecting, I think one of the hardest parts is how grief changes everything. It changes us, it changed our relationships forever. We still have the love, of course, but things change after important people dies.
Of course, and that's normal, isn't it? They were so
Yeah.
important for us and for the whole family. And I think everyone deals with loss differently. And sometimes that means creating a little distance also, just to survive. Of course, those things change. Important people are gone.
Yeah, but it's hard and affects you in so many ways. So for a long time, I just couldn't connect with mom the way I used to because, as I said, I keep repeating this, but I felt like I was carrying her grief too. It was too much for me. But at the same time, we both just did the best we could at the time.
You did. We all did.
I remember reading this quote after my husband passed. This one hit me so hard. It said, "Don't look at me, don't talk to me, don't touch me, don't leave." I read it and I thought, oh my God, did I write this? This is me.
That does explain it quite accurately.
Yeah, because I don't need the collective crying and hugging and stroking, at least not in my darkest moments. In those moments, I need peace and quiet and understanding and no touching, but presence, please. Of course, I also need love and connection in general and safety around me, but in my deepest grief, I need space and my aloneness also. And I wonder if anyone listening relates to that.
I bet so many can. And that is maybe the biggest difference between you and our mom because she needs the opposite, maybe. She needs the crying and hugging and comforting more than you did. I'm probably more like my mom in that way too. I can imagine wanting those things, hug and, cry on somebody's shoulder. But I think that's the one thing about grief. It changes relationships, but that doesn't mean that they're broken. You and our mom are finding a new way to navigate this, and that's what matters.
Exactly. That's the right way to think about it. And I think that's the takeaway here. Grief doesn't look the same for everyone. It's heavy and complex and unpredictable, of course. And it shifts relationships, challenges us, and lingers in ways we don't expect. And maybe forever. But I do believe that if we dare to be open to communicate our needs, it gets easier. That's something I know is a strength of mine, and that has helped me for sure.
Again, communication is key. And even in all this grief, change, unpredictability, but there's still love. And we keep going one step at a time.
And I'm forever grateful for that, for family, for friends, for memories, and for the love that never disappears, even when you're standing in the middle of a storm.
Yeah.
You have this saying in English, when it rains, it pours, and that's exactly what happened to us in 2020. And I know so many people can relate to that feeling when life just keeps throwing things at you, one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
Because then, when my boyfriend was diagnosed with cancer in 2023, just a few months later in September, his dad was diagnosed too.
Yeah. And
So,
again, how is that possible? Unbelievable.
mm,
That's not doesn't seem fair. That's it.
no, I know, right? Sadly, his dad passed away in November last year. And he was such a kind and solid man, the kind of person who just radiates warmth and goodness. And then you really start to think, yeah, that saying is true. When it rains, it pours. These things can happen to any of us, and I think so many people listening will understand what it's like.
I think that's what makes it even harder when it's not just one thing. But loss after loss, challenge after challenge, you barely have time to catch your breath before the next wave hits. It's like your new norm.
Yeah, but I have to say also, my boyfriend and his entire beautiful family, my new in-laws, they are some of the warmest, most loving, and strongest people I have ever met. I don't even have the words to explain how much they mean to me. They've been my rock through everything, so supportive and positive and open to me and my whole family and to our story.
Yeah.
Even in the middle of their own grief, it's overwhelming in the best way.
That is incredible. And I love hearing that because with everything that you have been through, you deserve to be surrounded by that kind of love and strength, just taking you in. It just shows that even in the hardest of times, there are good people who lift you up and make it possible to keep going, make it easier.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons in all of this. You can't go through it alone. The people around you, the ones who stay, they make all the difference.
They really do. And I think that's something so important for anyone listening who might be going through their own storm, finding those people, holding on to them, letting them be there for you. That's what gets you through.
Yeah, indeed. I read this quote. Let me end with that. You know, I love my quotes.
Yes, you do. And I do too.
This is to my mom, our mom and our hero, and all of you mothers and daughters out there also. I finally understand. Maybe my mom wasn't always exhausted because she was doing so much, but because she was feeling so much. The weight of love, worry, sacrifice, and the endless thoughts that never let her rest. I get it now. Motherhood isn't just about what we do, it's about everything we carry in our hearts. No wonder she was tired. No wonder I am too.
That is such a beautiful way to end.
Thank you, sister, for this conversation. It's been interesting and healing for sure.
Thank you. And to everyone listening, if you're grieving, know that you're not alone. Even if you are far away from your loved ones, even if it feels like it, we are all figuring it out together. And everyone has their own way of dealing with things. Dare to be open to the ones you have close to you. It makes it all so much easier for all of us. And it's only fair to dedicate this episode to our biggest role model, our beautiful mama.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Nina had a dream, all black and white. We were talking in English, yeah, that ain't right. Two Norwegian sisters miles apart, but that dream lit a fire, put a mic to the heart. Katrine's in the States, Nina's back home. Two voices, one mission through the microphone. Grief in life, the highs and the lows. We hit record, uh-oh, where the file go? Oh, we fumble, we stumble, but baby we shine. Lost the intro, never mind. Wi-Fi shaky, cables crossed, but our hearts stay strong, no moment lost. From a dream to the mic, now the world can hear. Two sisters telling truths with a laugh and a tear. We live, we learn, we sip, we sigh. Talking love, talking lost, let the echoes fly. Grief walks in, pulls up a chair, says I'll stay a while, yeah, life ain't fair. But we mix it with laughter, a toast in hand, finding light where the dark still stands. Ba-da-da-boo-doo, is this thing on? Mic's on mute, oh well, move along. Ba-ba-dee, ba-ba-da, take two. Oops, too late, let's laugh it through. From a dream to the mic, now the world can hear. Two sisters telling truths with a laugh and a tear. We live, we learn, we sip, we sigh. Talking love, talking lost, let the echoes fly. So plug in, lean in, let's take our time. No script, no filters, just rhythm and rhyme. We're here, we're now, we're in our prime. Two sisters, one dream on the mic.